Okay, I just watched this last night and I had a great time with this movie. This is from 1980. I'm reaching for the disc. I'll show you the disc later. From 1980, Beyond Terror. This is a Spanish horror film that I had never heard of, although the cover art was pretty familiar. So this, I guess this was, listening to the extras, this was not a film that was easy to see for a long time, especially in English in this country. It was only available as a bootleg with like fan-made subtitles and things like this. This new Cauldron Films release looks gorgeous. This is one of those movies that I often will say it doesn't look like an old movie so much in terms of the image quality. Great skin tones, great, it sounded like a Video Watchdog article, which is a compliment. Great skin tones, great color, great, not vibrant color because it wasn't shot that way, but accurate, true color, and a great, what do you want to call it? A great contrast gradation. You can see varieties of color and depth and light and dark and so forth and things like that, which not all transfers will do that. So anyway, what is this movie about? You fool, you fool. This is it's about 80-something minutes, which I always greatly appreciate these days. So oftentimes when you're watching new mainstream Hollywood films, everything is minimum 2 hours. If you're watching a Japanese film, 2 hours is considered a featurette, or in a Bollywood film, 2 hours is considered a short subject. But these 80 minutes, 90 minutes, just no fat, just get in there, do what you're gonna do and get out. And this movie does that. So the film is essentially about, I want to use the word bikers, but it's not like a Hell's Angels thing. It's a group of young, youthful, leather-clad, criminal thug toughs, miscreants who ride motorcycles, but they're not like Harleys and choppers. They're more like a little more upscale motorcycles than that, at least for 1980. And they decide, they got themselves some heroin, and they're gonna go, and they're a little short on cash, so they're gonna go and knock over a bar. And in the midst of doing that and holding everybody hostage, some police happen upon the scene, and there's a gunfight, and just about everybody winds up being killed by these robbers in a really brutal and cold, heartless way. They're just like, hey, no witnesses, bang, bang, bang. And they take with them a man and woman couple who had just walked into the bar as hostages. And I'm not gonna tell you everything that happens. They wind up finding a remote farmhouse, a remote house where an elderly woman and her apparently grandson live there. And they beat up the woman, and then they decide to burn the house down so there are no witnesses with the elderly woman and the kid inside. Did I mention how just wholesome these bad guy lead actors are? Lead characters. The actors might have been wonderful people. The characters, despicable. So they leave. It turns out with her dying breath that grandmother is a Satan worshiper. And she puts a curse on them. And she says, Satan, do my bidding and take these bums out. Satan, if nothing else, is obliging. So we then get the plot recounting is going to stop any second now. Our bad guys and their hostages, basically the car drives itself out of their control to this old stone church that's in ruins, and they decide to hole up there for the night, and things don't go well for them. Things get really weird and dark and it's a very grim in tone film. Not wildly gruesome. There's a couple moments where you're like, wow, that was wildly gruesome. But for the most part, it's not. It's very supernatural, very weird, very creepy. So it's like you've got your biker aspects to it. You've got your Satanism aspects. You eventually get, Kat Ellinger on the commentary says that it's often talked about as a bikers versus zombies movies, and it's not that, but you do technically have bikers, and you do sort of technically have zombies at one point. It's just a weird mind bender of a movie, very taboo breaking, very, the dialogue is kind of hilariously crude. I mean, it's in Spanish with English subtitles, so you're reading it, but I actually literally, I'm not gonna share it here, but I did take some screenshots of the film because the dialogue was just like so offensive. It was funny. And I really liked this. I really liked Beyond Terror. And again, loving Cauldron Films for digging up, it's almost appropriate to say for this movie, for digging up films like this that I really, really enjoy, that the horror-hungry U.S. public really hasn't had a chance to see before. So as I was going to say, here's the cover, here's the box. I mean, you've already seen the graphic, but that's what the box, and they Cauldron does the nice clear cases that I like, which allow for reversible covers. So you get your disc and you get a little cover insert, which copies the front cover artwork, a little ad for some other Cauldron things there. And then the reversible cover is where I kind of recognize the artwork. If you can see that artwork there, which I believe is cribbed from the poster for The Witch Who Came from the Sea. Correct me if I'm wrong or back me up if I'm right. I'm not really sure, but I believe that's the case. And the extras on here, not loaded with extras, but that's okay. The movie's great. You get a commentary with film historian Kat Ellinger. That's all you really need for extras. She's great, really digs deep into the history of the film, the history of the filmmaker, what filmmaking was like in Spain at the time, and its distribution, everything you would want to know but were afraid or didn't think to ask. That and an image gallery. So the image gallery here is actually about a half hour long. And what it is, it's interesting. I've not seen one done like this before, although I've seen some mastered this way. You get, the first image comes up and across the bottom it says if you want to skip, advance through the slides, just use your chapter button, which sometimes they'll also do that. But underneath it is what seems to be the entire score of the film. One of the stills you see in here is an audio cassette of the film's soundtrack, and it's a good soundtrack. So it's one of those rare still galleries where you might not get a lot of stills that advance too rapidly, but you're essentially getting the soundtrack to this film for free, which I can't imagine, could be wrong, can't imagine is easy to get your hands on for a good price anywhere. So I really, really like this. It is in Spanish mono with English subtitles, all region. So if you're listening to me anywhere that isn't the US, this will play fine in your player. 83 minutes, 1.66 to 1 aspect ratio, so not super widescreen, doesn't fill side to side a 16 by 9, they don't call them that anymore, a normal TV, I was gonna say a widescreen TV. Your average HD TV set, you'll get tiny pillar boxes on the edge, but that's no big deal. From 1980, and the director was Tomás Aznar. This is really good. I really like this. It's grim, it's nasty. It reminded me a lot of Last House on the Left or House on the Edge of the Park, without being as totally grim and crude as those, but there's content in here that's pretty grim and crude. So available from Cauldron Films, as I said about 7 times already, Beyond Terror on Blu-ray.